about some of my favourite horror movies and the scariest movie that I had ever seen. And you wouldn't believe what it is. Okay, let's pour. Oh, they smell so good. Let's pour them into here. The first horror film I ever saw, I think, apart from all the sort of Hammer horror movies, which were like the sort of British films. We had Dracula and Twins of Evil and all things like that. First real proper horror was Halloween, and what happened is I was about 8 years old, and I had this bedroom in my house, really big bedroom. All the bedrooms were like really big. It was so big it had a double bed in it, and I had this room to myself. I had this big fireplace and a massive big window, big long window across the wall, overlooking my back garden or backyard. And my dad had this big black and white TV. So I asked if I could keep it. So he said yeah. So I'm sitting in this double bed, this big room, and there used to be a programme called Film, and whatever the year was for that year was like in 78, so it was called Film 78, and there was this guy called Barry Norman who would review the latest movies that were out at the time, and they would show a couple of clips from them. And on this particular night, Halloween was coming what it's about, I'm sure. Little boy murders his sister, gets put away in an institution, but then escapes years later on Halloween. So they're showing clips. Showed this clip of the bit with Tommy, which is this little boy that is being babysat by a girl called Laurie Strode, and he's looking out the window and he sees, Michael Myers, the killer from Halloween, walking with this body in his hand, and he's looking out the window and he's going, he's out there, the boogeyman is out there. She's going, Tommy, stop it, it's stupid. He's out there. And Laurie looks out, and of course he's gone by them. She goes, Tommy, stop being so stupid. But it was really scary because it was night time. I'm watching this with the lights out. So they show these couple of clips, and then that night I went to bed, and I had the curtains open, so the lights coming in from the sort of street lamps, but it's casting all these shadows in my room, and I didn't sleep very well that night. If you've never seen Halloween, which I very much doubt, definitely watch it. It's an absolute classic, really good film. Also, another really good horror movie I watched, it came on the TV one night, called The Omen. The Omen, with Gregory Peck and Lee Remick. And this is basically about I think he's an ambassador, I think, in the UK for America, and his baby dies at birth, but they say the mother of this other child has died. If you want to save breaking your wife's heart, you can just have this baby and adopt him. Which he does, but it turns out this baby is the devil's son. So not a very wise move, but it's about, you have this priest that tries to warn him about who the child is, and what he is. Eventually all these things start happening, and it's like a really good creepy film. That was like the next sort of film I remember that I really enjoyed watching. That come on TV. I can't remember what year, but I must have been about 10 when I saw that, but I really liked that. Another really good horror movie. I remember it was called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and everyone was going on about this, and as a kid everyone go, yeah, I've seen it, it's brilliant. We all pretended we'd seen it and how good it was, but we'd never seen it really. this tombstone, and he's been tied to it. It was based on Ed Gein, the killer. Ed Gein, who was a grave robber and used to make furniture out of people's parts and stuff. But this beginning title was like really, really like intense, and then it comes up. It's like all this volcanic sort of lava or something comes up, and it's really like intense music, and it comes up the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I thought, oh, but he turned it off because it was late, so we won't watch it tonight, watch it tomorrow night. I thought, oh, okay, good. I ran up the stairs, I was like really, really scared of that, but it sort of, once that bit's finished, it becomes just another sort of, you know, teenagers getting killed movie. So I was alright with it after that. It was all good. Another good one is Carrie, the original Carrie from 1976. Sorry guys, I keep looking at the camera, I do apologise. I've got to stop doing it. It's a terrible habit. Oh, God, right now. Yeah, so I watched another film called Carrie, and that's a really good film. It's based on the novel by Stephen King, about a young girl who's a bit of a sort of outcast, gets bullied and everything at school, and nobody really likes her, but she has this power called telekinesis, where it's the ability to move things or cause changes to things by the force of the mind. Very good film. There's another film pretty similar to it called The Fury. If you've never seen that, that's worth a watch as well. Come out a couple of years later. So that was another really good movie, and the reason I liked it was because the end frightened the living daylights out of me. Really good ending, which I won't talk about. I don't want to spoil it in case you've never seen it. And then there was another movie called Friday the 13th, which was another sort of slasher movie where these kids all, you know, go to the Camp Crystal Lake, and they're like they're counsellors, I think they're called. You know, they look after the kids, and they slowly get killed off one by one, and eventually you find out who the killer is. But again, the ending frightened the heebie-jeebies out of me. Really, really good, and they sort of, they continued it as well with part two. Part two did a similar thing, but yeah, but the film that actually genuinely terrified me, I was watching Ben, the ASMR gamer, and he was talking about some, you know, movies that like scared him. He was talking about The Strangers, which is like an home invasion movie, which is really good. But he said after he'd watched it, because he was only young, he couldn't sleep for the whole of the summer. You know, he used to go to bed and sit up until it got light, then go to sleep about 4 in the morning. And I can totally relate, because I used to do the same thing to this movie. This movie wasn't even a horror movie, okay? It was my dad, first of all, said to me, he said, John Hurt has made a new film called The Elephant Man, where he turns into an elephant. It's a comedy. So I thought, oh, okay. He said, I'm getting it soon. So we'd got this, it was like a pirate version of it. Hopkins, and it's directed by David Lynch, whose movies are scary anyway, even if they're not a horror film. And it sort of starts off with this music, and the music started, it's really sort of, there's something about the music, it's kind of beautiful music, but there's something sort of hidden in it that makes it sinister somehow. And it was just the music, and then it sort of starts off and opens up with a picture of this really, really pretty woman, and then you have these elephants sort of swinging their trunks, and the woman sort of shaking her head, and the way sort of, because David Lynch is a genius, it sort of blurs and distorts, and then you have like all this smoke come up, and then you hear a baby crying as her giving birth to her son, and it turns out, this poor guy was born with something called Proteus syndrome, which made his bones and sort of flesh start overgrowing. But it's in black and white. It was black and white as well, and it has Anthony Hopkins, and Anthony Hopkins says like he works in the London hospital. It's a true story as well. And he sort of goes to see, because he's then grown up, and he's put on show in a freak show that was just opposite the London hospital. And he goes there, and the police are there trying to shut it down, and you think, how bad is this, and it just, I don't know, there's just something about it, the way it was made, and then John Hurt is made up so well, and because he's not going around killing people, he's actually like a victim, it did something to my brain, and I was petrified, seriously, I was so scared, and I'll tell you something really interesting, is my fiancée Trava's Lassance also had the same feelings towards this film. It terrified her too. So we finally plucked up the courage a few nights back and watched it. And apart from crying our eyes out, because it's a really sad film, guys, we're okay with it now, but it was at the time. It's what I used to do, just the same thing. I'd go to bed, but sit up and listen to music or something, and my little cassette player, until it got light. Then I would go to sleep, because I was so terrified of him coming up the stairs and coming in my room. It was really, really awful. I was only about 10 years old. But yeah, that was anyway, back to the tingles. We want tingles now. But my favourite horror of all time is The Exorcist. Brilliantly made. The acting is fantastic. A terrifying sort of concept of a 12-year-old girl being possessed by a demon. Really good movie, guys. And then having to call in finally after doing all these tests. They do all tests for like epilepsy and for the temporal lobe, and thinking that could be why. They're trying to look at sort of reasonable, plausible reasons why she's doing all these things, and it's so good still now, a classic, and still genuinely scary, even though it doesn't scare me, but I do love it. It's like such a great movie. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I don't know how long I've been rambling. But I'm going to leave you all now.
peaceful.